with Song of Solomon, it's one of those books where it was said that it's like the seminal book that every young African-American male should read in their lifetime. And so within, I introduced this concept of a black manifesto. What's interesting about Song of Solomon is that it was released during the Black Power movement, which is a seminal movement in the struggle for civil rights. But it was a very much male-based movement for civil rights. I began with the concept of the Moynihan Report. The Moynihan Report was a report in which a white sociologist by the name of Daniel Moynihan argued in his document, The Negro Family, The Case for National Action, that at the heart of the deterioration of the Negro society is the fall of the Negro family. In other words, he blames the fall of the Negro family not on systematic racism, but on them themselves. And he adds on to this argument by saying that, within this I introduced the concept of outlawed matriarchy in a sense that he blames it not only on the Negroes themselves, but the role reversal of husband and wife. Basically, he's arguing that the Negro society has fallen into a matriarchal culture as a result of the family breakings during slavery, and this produced a emasculated black male. So once again, another white man telling a black man what to do. So, about that, right? So my thesis originally for my history senior sem was that the idea that it was a male-based movement, and that they understood the argument that he was making, but they rejected the fact of him saying that you have to change your ways to be considered saved. And so this is an interesting argument, but there were still questions that I had. I still had ideas about like what exactly does he mean by that. And so my question was, is it only just that? Is only the black male supposed to be the only way that we fight this fight? So it led me to when I was considering Song of Solomon, this whole idea of Toni Morrison as a black female writing a book about a black male. So my thesis for this particular thesis is we can read Song of Solomon as protest literature in response to the Black Power movement. She's adopting a male character because she's critiquing the agenda that the black community assumes about black masculinity, in the sense that not only is it's saving the black community in a way, but it's leaving out. It doesn't include everybody. It's only a monolithic thing. And so I go on to say again the choice of a male character and how she's toying with gender and myth to respond to the Moynihan Report and this argument and the overall argument that her novel makes about black masculinity. So this whole idea of protest literature. Protest literature has been a theme within American literature for a long time, but where it comes in for this argument is Noel Schaffnagel's argument book, From Apology to Protest, the Black American Novel. He argues that the genesis of protest literature in African American literature started with Native Son by Richard Wright. He argues that before the appearance of Native Son, most of the novels by African Americans avoided racial issues with an apologetic tradition. They claimed that they were heroic and that they were standing in the face of white adversity. He began a trend that presented them as psychologically thwarted, that in a lot of ways performed or invoked Moynihan's thesis. And so he argued that these novels can be used to influence social criticism. But one thing that I noticed when I was reading through that book is that he says the major test of the black writer is to present how well he can blend social protests in an objective narrative. How well he can do it, not they, but how well he can. So my question was, so does that mean black women cannot write prose literature? Can they not consider to be the writers of prose literature? And so this whole idea, going back to the whole idea of gender and myth. Unfortunately, I'm not the only one that's considering these conversations. Other scholars have considered these conversations as well. In particular, Liz Kolvots argues that the accepted tenet of American gender myths that men find their freedom by escaping the constructs of society which are represented by women. In the novel, Milkman, the main character, makes a leap of faith. That is the main story of the novel. But he does so in doing this that the novel, the way that I'm talking about it, it sets up to the fact where he he represents an idea of black masculinity that I think Morrison is trying to show that includes black men and black women. But in the beginning of the novel, he's very much selfish. He ignores many of the women in his life. And so this whole idea of myth in which Morrison is critiquing on, she herself as a woman is protesting that. So the second thing also is that, again, her position as, I'm supposed to say female, not male. It says female, but it's not the screen. Problematizes her relation to the myth because of the fact that traditional myths suggest an inferior status for women. And so such a stance makes her confront the phallocentric nature of Western myths, including African American ones. And so in terms of how this novel can be a response to the Moynihan report, one of the biggest scholars that suggested this was Roland Murray, in which he argued that Morrison's novel challenges the patriarchy in the public discourse, in which the investment in patriarchy was seen as a crutch and not the real solution to the problem. And so really, in doing that, they really didn't go against Moynihan, but really just became him, but just in a different form. And so I bring up to this whole idea of One Manifesto, where other scholars say that while the novel is about Milkman, the novel still has a female presence. Many of the characters influence Milkman in ways that makes this leap at the end that more meaningful. One of those, including Sophia Ahmad, says that his discovery of his selfhood as a black man is compounded by these women in his life. Others include reading the character of Pilate, which serves as she's his maternal aunt, but she's also a mother figure to him, in which they say that by doing that, the patriarchal rhetoric within the civil rights, Black Power movement, by placing Pilate to have this authority, she actually serves as an alternative to Martin Luther King and Malcolm X, same way Ella Baker and William Hamer did. And so, let's see. Yes. So through interactions with the characters of Macon 2, which is his dad, Guitar, which is his best friend, Ruth, his mother, and of course Pilate, she attempts to transcend the phallocentric rhetoric found within Black push literature. She comes to represent that the agenda within Black masculinity can not only include black men, it can include black women as well, and it does not emasculate them in the sense that Moynihan is arguing. So one of the scenes that I found within this, I call it patriarchy, is within Macon 2. Macon 2 is Milkman's father, and his father completely but just completely disrespect or disregards Ruth. You know, he is a black male who represents, at least what I think, represents the tenet of Black patriarchy. And the specific scene in the book where he slaps Ruth, his mother, and Milkman, and it has a profound influence on Milkman. It says here, before his father could draw his hand back, Milkman yanked him the back of his coat collar up out of his chair and knocked him into the radiator. You touch her again one more time and I'll kill you. Within this idea, Milkman feels glee. He feels like he saved his mother. He feels like he was the hero in the sense that he stood up for her. But then his sister reminds her, no, you were just like him. You turned into him by doing that. You think because you hit him once that we all believe you were protecting her. It is a lie. You were taking over, letting us know that you had the right to tell her all of us what we had to do. She said, where do you get the right to decide our lives? I'll tell you where. From that hog's gut that hangs down between your legs. When I read that line, I got it. I mean, when I read this scene, Milkman is trying to assume the patriarchal values the same way that black males are trying to assume the patriarchal values during the Black Power movement as a result of Moynihan. But Morrison reminds the reader and through his sister that by you doing that, you are not helping the problem. You are really just making it worse for not just for yourself, but for us as well. Second character is Guitar. Now Guitar is his best friend. Guitar represents the real absolutist part of Black patriarchy. He is part of an organization called the 7 Days, which is a group of 7 men who kill white people for killing black people. They kill a white woman for a black woman, and which many scholars say represent the Black Panthers. And so within this scene in particular is very important to Milkman's overall transition, because when they're talking about the murders that have been going on around the time, he says, when a Negro child, a Negro woman, and a Negro man is killed by whites and nothing is done about it, this society selects a similar victim at random. They execute him in this way, similar manner as if they can, which is what the 7 days do. And then Guittard also mentions there are no innocent white people. As a race, they are all unnatural, and it takes a strong effort for the will to overcome an unnatural enemy. Now, Milkman, as you will see in the next slide, goes on and says, wait a minute, Guittard, if they are as bad as unnatural as you say, why do you want to be like them? Don't you want to be better than they are? So right here, Morrison suggests that, like, if we're going to be better than our white counterparts, why are we assuming the same ideals that they are? If we're meant to argue against Moynihan or prove him wrong, why are we assuming the same values that he's basically promoting? But we're just saying it's not because we're doing it ourselves. And so Guittard says, well, I am better. I'm not the one having fun. One, having fun. Two, trying to gain power, public attention, or money or land. And three, angry at anybody. So he claims that his actions are for the good of the people. And then he goes on and says that he does it in a sense that we rather do that than just crack and tell anybody, meaning the whole idea that he does it in secret, the same way that he claims that they do as well. And then this is a big transition for Milkman, because Milkman says, I can't buy a guitar. There's too much wrong with this. You can't marry, have children. What kind of life is that? There is no love in it. You kill and you don't kill killers. You kill innocent people. So the whole idea is that you are not saving anybody. You were hurting. This is Morrison saying you are not hurting, you are not saving anybody. You are just hurting us, and you're hurting the movement itself. And then Guittard answers, but if there was anything like or near justice or courts for a cracker kills a Negro, there would be no 7 days. But there ain't, so we are. So the whole idea of taking matters into their own hands, representing that whole idea of the Black patriarchy within the Black Power movement. And the whole idea of ties to the outlawed motherland. Now, this one is kind of hard to look at because Ruth is very much she doesn't really do much, at least what I thought originally, do much to really show an influence on Milkman. It was hard to find something. But I will argue that she does have a huge influence on him because the name Milkman comes from her, because she breastfeeds him up until he can walk, and so he's given that nickname as a joke, but it represents the influence that she has on him. And so I argue with Adrian O'Reilly's theory of Morrison and motherhood, in which the aim of Black mothering is thus to nurture and sustain the soul, the voice within, and the interior thing of Black sons, so that they are able to transcend the maiming of racism and grow into manhood whole and complete. So even though she appears to be this figure in which she's controlled by all the men around her, there's a big chunk of the novel that lends a little bit of the voice to her. For example, when she's telling Milkman about how he was born and why she did what she did, she said, Ruth turned to her son. She lifted her head and looked deep into his eyes. And so I also prayed for you every single night and every single day on my knees. Now tell me, what harm did I do for you on my knees? And then after which, when he has this talk, he has this talk with her, and then he realizes that now the one woman who claimed to love him more than her life, actually loved him more than his life, for she had spent half a year trying to relieve him of it. So he realizes that she was not trying to hurt him. She was not trying to emasculate him, but in a lot of ways, her love is the reason why he exists. And so we get to the idea of, and so with Pilot, there is a song that she sings when Milkman is born, and in the song, where we get the theme of flight, in which Sugarman didn't fly away, Sugarman had gone home. Well, at the end of the novel, when Milkman is on his journey and Pilot meets up with him again, she dies. And well, let me backtrack here. when Milkman discovers Solomon, which is his great-great-grandfather, he goes to the land where his family is from. He learns of a song that many of the citizens sing that he has heard of, in which says, Solomon, don't leave me here. Solomon, do not leave. The whole notion of Solomon, do not leave me here. And so when I read that term within this context, I realized that after he realizes that it wasn't Solomon who's singing the song, but rather his wife. Because when Solomon took his flight, he left her behind. And so he realized that it wasn't about saving yourself, but rather what you leave behind. And so when Pilate dies, he sings a song to her in the similar way, but changes the words. And then he realizes that he knew why he loved her so. Without ever leaving the ground, she could fly. In which he realized that it wasn't about, again, not saving yourself, but really saving yourself, but also what you leave behind. And then, of course, I go back to the ending. The big ending is where he makes his leap. And so I wonder, like, the big argument is that people say, when he takes the leap, does he die? Do they kill each other? Like, what are we supposed to take away from that as we read this ending? And when I see that, if you surrender the air, you could write it. I think that is what Morrison is saying. Is she's saying that it's not about what you, the male, or what she or he, she, the female, like the aspect. It's about inclusive. It's about how this movement includes all of us, and you can't leave one of us behind. And so that's my